What's going on, everybody? We are back with another episode of The Jungle. Guys, real quick, I wanted to just give a heads up to head over to the Spotify, Apple page, YouTube page. Check us out, like, comment, subscribe. All it does is help push the message. Also, the new website is up. So right now I'm having a problem with my DNS settings. I can't get the purchase domain name to link up with the current site. So I'm not going to put that out there on the webpage yet or on the show yet. But if you head over to my YouTube channel, it's linked down at the bottom. There's all kinds of resources there's a AANA meeting locator. There is some guests that have been on. There's recovery services on there, like places to look and find recovery service. There's second chance employment opportunities, second chance housing opportunities, things like that. So if you know somebody that's struggling as a convicted felon or somebody that's having a rough go at it with who's recovered from drugs, recovering addict, shoot over there, check it out. I will have the domain name up as soon as domain.com stops playing games with me. Also, real quick, want to give a quick shout out to truckparkingclub.com. I have recently linked up, partnered with Mike Lombard, good guy. I know I got a lot of truck driver friends that listen to the podcast. Guys, if you get caught out, I know how it is, man. I run at night. Sometimes I can't find parking. Truckparkingclub.com. Basically, anywhere from 10 to 15 bucks a night. You can pull into nice spots. They have showers. A lot of them have beds. You can go and lay your head down, get some rest for your 10-hour reset. So yeah, check it out, truckparkingclub.com. Use code Gorilla20 and you'll get 20% off on your first stay. Guys, today I got with me CJ Mizzle. What's up, buddy?
How you doing?
So CJ hails from Akron, Ohio. He was actually just recently married on June 2nd. He's a former satellite reconnaissance specialist with the US Marine Corp, former housing manager at Tal Behavioral, former campus and house director at Alpha House, and he is currently the community outreach ambassador at Restore Addiction Recovery. So go ahead and say hi to everybody, CJ.
Hey, everybody. It's good to be here, man. I know we've been trying to link up for this for a while here, Chris. It's been
and you know what, man? It's all right.
But
yeah, everything happens in its own time.
I agree. So, now I'm here at Restore trying to do some good things, man.
Well, it sounds like you're doing good things. I haven't had a whole lot. So you and we've never really actually sat down and like had a real lengthy conversation. For anybody that doesn't know, CJ got involved with my brother's church, New Hope, out in Talmadge, Ohio, and did you get involved with the Celebrate Recovery, or were you helping?
I started that meeting. Okay. It was my own kind of doing. It was, I eventually passed it off to Trish when I took the job out in Grafton.
Okay. Yeah, I knew you had something to do with it. We were periodically attending that church at the time, and I know my brother gravitated towards you. He talked about you all the time. He would call me and we would have conversation. He'd be like, you really need to link up with CJ. Like, you need to link up with CJ. And so I think it was one Sunday you were at the church and we were introduced, and it's one of those things, man. You're active in your life and it's like you're a moving train, man. And it's hard to you know what I mean? Like, you're doing your thing. You're all the way out in Akron. I'm all the way out here in Canton. So it's kind of hard to keep up. You're trying, I mean, you were getting married. But I'm really glad that you were able to come on today, man. I've like you said, I've been trying to get you on here for a minute. So I'm glad we finally linked up.
Yeah, I'm really glad to be here, man. And it was you were actually there for my testimonies first time we met. At my 1 year mark of my sober anniversary was on May 25th, which was a Saturday in 2019. And then the very next day was, in fact, it was about 2 weeks before that. I went to your brother. I was like, hey, Pastor, I think God's telling me to give my testimony the first time at New Hope. So, okay, good. In 2 weeks. Sunday morning. I'm like, wait a minute. Whoa. What are we doing here? Like,
I said he's talking. He's not talking about running a race, man.
Come on, man. Come on. But yeah, I remember meeting you that morning, and he had pre-warned me. He goes, CJ, you think you're a big guy? He goes, wait till you meet my brother. A little funny backstory to that is my whole life people have told me, oh, you're a big guy. But in my mind, my dad was like 6'6", like 275. My mom was 5'3", so I ended up like 6'2". And so I'm like, no, because in my mind, that was always still, that much bigger. But yeah, your brother was a huge influence on me, especially early in my recovery and my faith. If it had not been for his church and himself, I don't know if I'd be here today. I don't know if I'd have kept that walk. They really rallied around me and lifted me up in times when I really needed them. And I'll be forever grateful for that.
My brother and I have had some rough patches over the years, specifically after my dad died. But I'll tell you, I am very grateful that I have the brother that I have. there's never been a time, whether we've been on the up and up or whatnot, that I can't reach out to him and call him and be like, hey dude, I'm having a rough go at it. Dude, I remember when I was a teenager going to help him clean some of his accounts and stuff, and the conversations we would have in the car, and going to and from, and me being able to just call him. It was he was always my little brother. I mean, he's my older brother, but he was always my little brother. But he was just I've been extremely blessed and thankful to have him as a brother. I know a lot of people would love to have an older brother like Todd. So,
stand-up guy. There wasn't always roses between us, but push came to shove. If you need him, he will be there.
Well, that's just it, and that's what it all boils down to. I know and we're totally good now, but I know even when we weren't, if I had really gone through something that I needed him, I know he'd still pick up the phone. That's what brothers do.
Family is, though. That's what family is. Family, not necessarily mean blood. It's somebody that, one, you grew together, you did life together, so you were shaped together, and two,
Right.
It's that person. No matter what is going on, no matter what's between us, I have friends who are that way. Like, you can call me at 3 a.m. and we haven't spoken in a year because we have something, and I'll be there for you.
Yep. Hey, give me 1 second. I thought I was linked up on Facebook. I guess I'm not. Not to cut you off. Yeah, he's I guess we're not going live. I thought we were live on Facebook. It just gave me a notification saying it kicked off. Yeah, that's what family is, man. My wife says that. So my wife's adopted, and she did not meet her biological parents or her brothers until she was 21, 22 years old. So she grew up with a family that she wasn't blood. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was, and she said that forever. And when her and I got together, and she kind of took over the mother spot of my children, because I don't know how familiar you are with my story. Their mom's kind of been in and out. She used to say that all the time. She's like, these are my kids. Like, blood doesn't mean anything. It's family's family, and you pick your family. So, well, cool, man. So, all right, everybody. Like I said, I've heard CJ's testimony. It's been a couple of years ago. So why don't you just tell everybody, talk about what took you down and how you got back up?
I'll start a little bit early years. I was born in Puerto Rico. We moved back here to the States. Both my parents were from Lorain, Ohio. My dad grew up in Campito, which is kind of like the Puerto Rican ghetto there. But my mom remarried when I just turned 5. So we moved to Akron, Ohio. My stepdad had a job here for Summit County, for the Metro Park. So he had to live within Summit County. So we moved to Akron. I'm 5 years old. My brother and sister, who were like 3 and 4 years older than me, they were actually born in the same year. It's kind of funny. 1975. One was born in January. One was born in December. So my dad was literally like, 6 weeks. All right, doctor said 6 weeks. So
I was up. Break summer, get back to work.
So we moved here to Akron, and it was away from my extended family. So it was a little bit different. I realize now, looking back, I mean, my early childhood, I don't think it was that bad, but looking back now, I kind of developed a really kind of a sense of self-sufficiency. And I realize it now because I kind of felt like a little bit, I don't know, like say abandoned in a way. Like my brother and sister were older, so they had each other. They were kind of like, good friends. My mom obviously had the new marriage kind of a thing. So I kind of learned to rely on myself at a very young age. Like I started like, washing and drying my own clothes, ironing them like 3rd grade, and doing things that normal kids that young. My son, who's 9, he just turned 9. He's in 3rd grade. I can't even imagine him doing anything like that. But that just was
Right.
my mindset back then, I guess. It was just kind of a thing. I grew up in kind of Firestone Park, South Akron, so it was Brown Street.
Wait, how old?
Moving there as
How
a
old are
kid.
you?
Huh?
How old are you?
I just turned 46 in October.
Oh, okay. I was only you don't look 46 years old, dude. You look way better than I do, and I'm only 42.
It's the Puerto Rican genes.
No, I was wondering. My wife grew up in Firestone Park. She went to Firestone High School, but I was just curious if maybe.
Yeah.
But I mean, you met her too. You didn't know each other. I was just curious. Go ahead. Sorry to interrupt you.
Okay. So when I moved there, man, it was kind of like, middle America kind of thing. It wasn't bad. I remember, though, it changing over time and it turning into pretty hood pretty quickly. And it's obviously as a kid, you kind of think things are cool. Your environment kind of influences you in ways that you wish it didn't at times, I guess, when you get older. But I got really kind of involved in selling drugs, doing drugs, committing crimes at a pretty early age. Was in and out of kind of trouble, skipping school all the time, getting in fights at school, getting suspended, just stuff like that, man. I was just kind of a troubled youth. I wasn't a bad kid. I always felt like I tried to love people, but I feel like maybe my go-to then was kind of like physically exerting myself because if you can hurt me emotionally, kind of a thing. So I get there, man. I get some cases as far as like the juvenile system. And I remember back then though, they were very kind of lax. Like I'd have like an aggravated assault charge, and I get 6 months probation. There was one time I didn't even talk to my probation officer. The whole time I was on probation, I called him up like literally 2 weeks before it was done. And he's like, "Did you get any trouble?" I'm like, "No." And so he's like, "All right, just finish it out." I never even met the man. But I got an aggravated robbery charge when I was 17. And I went to court, and it was one of the first cases at the new juvenile court up there on Dan Street. It just opened up. And I go in there, and the judge is going to give us prison, like real prison. Not juvenile detention. He's going to give some of us to prison, me and a couple of my friends. And I remember being like, man, I just messed up. And the family, who the kid we robbed, stood up. And they didn't want us, the boys, going to prison. So the judge gave us one last chance. And so I cut off my friendship with all my friends. I stopped hanging out with every single one of them. I was right around 17 at the time, dropped out of school. I kind of started working and stuff like that. Kind of paving my own way. At 19, within a week's time, I got my GED. I got my record expunged, my juvenile record expunged, and I joined the Marine Corps, all within like 2 weeks of each other. It was one of the first Marines they allowed with the GED at that time. So it's kind of like my way of like, all right, man, I got to get out of here. Because no matter what I was doing now with my life, I felt like that stigma was all around me. People knew I had a reputation. Oh, he sold drugs. He committed crimes. He did those kinds of things. So I knew I wanted to get away and be able to forge my own path. So I did that at 19. Joined the Marine Corps, man. It was the first time I think in my life that I was really good at something, and I gave it like my all. Like I said, they have a term, they call it, it's crap hot, but not the word crap. It's somebody that, I was good at PT, I was smart, I was drill, I was doing all these things. I was kind of tabbed early on as like, this is a guy that is going to be fast tracked kind of for promotion. So I picked up a couple meritorious promotions early on. Things are going well. I'm in, and September 11th happens. So I was in, and I remember it was a morning of, I gotten back from Egypt. It was a combined arms exercise, which means all the services. So it was 30 days gone. We were out towards by Egypt. And we were on the back on a limbo, which is 96. I mean, 96 hours. I had 4 days off. We got back from exercise. It was out of the country. He was 4 days off. It was the second day of that 96. And that happens. I generally don't go too much into that. I've spent some time talking about all that kind of stuff with people. But it was a very hard time in my life. It was a lot of things happening. I just broken up also with a girl I dated since I was 15. So it was a very, very kind of difficult time. But I get out of the Marine Corps, and I decide to move to LA, and I'm started being a dive instructor out there. I went to go to Sport Chalet, which was like a kind of sports kind of store. They had like dive equipment you could rent. So I went to go get the dive equipment. They're getting all the stuff out, and I handed him my certification. And the guy didn't even say anything to me. He just points down at this little sign. And it's got at the very bottom a little starred thing that says, "We do not accept military certification." I kind of got upset. I'm like, do you know how much harder it is to get that scuba bubble than it is to that 2-week PADI course that a 12-year-old can take? Like, it's just ridiculous. But they had a job opening. So I went ahead and took the job, and they had 3 courses then. The claim to fame, me being there, which I wasn't there that long, was the fact that we taught the Italian Job when they did the remake of that movie, How to Scuba Dive.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, Mark Wahlberg, Mos Def, I think it was Donald Sutherland and Seth Green. So it was
That's cool.
Kind of cool. So it was kind of a little bit claim to fame. Well, working in the dive shop out there in LA, it came to be off season, and everybody knows the Pacific's really cold if you've never been there. So when it's wintertime, it gets even colder. So there's nobody diving. So I went from about $1,500 a week to like $300 a week. If I had saved every single one of my checks, I couldn't even afford to pay my rent. So I called up my dad, who I had on again, off again, kind of a strange relationship most of my life. He's living in Florida at the time. And he gets me a job where he's working at Crown Lift Trucks. So I fly out to there, and I'm working at Crown. I'm doing well. At this time, it was like the first time I think after everything in my life, I'd kind of pulled my life together some, and I'm working a good job. I've got an apartment, got a car. I'm doing all the things, all the things. And at this time, my brother had a traumatic brain injury a couple years prior, and he became an extreme addict and alcoholic. And this is the kid, like, while I was being a juvenile growing up, he was the son that every parent wanted. Told on himself, was into band and art, and he was just a really nice guy. Like it was, man, he was just a really, really good dude. But after that traumatic brain injury, it kind of took a part of himself. If anybody know anybody who's went through that, it's kind of like it robs them of themselves. And we used to have conversations about. He'd tell me, he's like, I feel like I'm trapped inside myself, and I knew I used to be different, but I can't get there now.
Do you think that was more so because of the brain injury or the medications that he was on after? Because I mean, I could relate to that being a drug addict. You know what I mean?
But it fueled it. Now I do believe, like, being an addict, working in the field for a while, I've noticed this is what I believe and what I've seen, what I've experienced. Whatever your DOC is, whatever your drug of choice is, whatever it's alcohol or a drug, it's whatever makes you feel like you are not you and that you no longer hate yourself.
Oh
Because
yeah,
who else would choose to kill themselves unless you did hate
yeah,
yourself subconsciously? You know, it's not like
right,
you're walking around, oh, I hate me, but you're doing things to self sabotage constantly in your life.
yeah.
So he just, because this is somebody that's never had a problem with anything, and then all of a sudden, traumatic brain injury. Now all of a sudden he's an alcoholic and he starts dabbling with crack and all kinds of stuff.
Oh, so it wasn't like prescriptions from the
No,
TBI.
no,
It was he just went like full tilt,
yeah,
just
yeah.
the street shit. Okay.
Yeah, it went from one extreme to another. It was kind of crazy. I mean, hanging out. I remember he did the rounds with my family then. Like, he lived with my mom for a little while, my sister, my aunt, my grandma, everybody. He did the rounds and couldn't get his stuff together. He'd take off and steal their stuff and sell it, and and it's like he could get himself together for a stretch, kind of white knuckle it, but he'd always go back.
Yeah.
So I knew they were all tired up here. I'm down in Florida, so I call him up one day and I'm like, "Hey, bro, why don't you come down here with me?" And he knew the stuff I did when I was younger. And I dabbled in all kinds of stuff, and I was not a saint at all. So I'm not going to judge you. Come on down. Let's get you some help. My prerequisite, though, was once you get into some treatment. So he decides to come down, and I get him into treatment. He's doing pretty good. I'm spending the time there, going to his family days and all that kind of stuff. Make sure he has the smokes. Make sure he has anything he needs. If he needs anything at all, I'm trying to take care of him. Kind of took on that kind of fatherly role. And it was since the Marine Corps, we kind of flip flopped. He was my older brother, but I outranked him when we were in the Marine Corps together. And so I kind of took that older brother kind of role from then on. But he's down there and he's doing well in treatment, and he gets kicked out one day for fighting. And he starts moving in with this girl, Maria. And it's one of those people that you meet from the jump, and it's kind of like bad news. This is not something that's good. And he starts going off the deep end really bad. There was a time, because at that time, my aunt had cancer and she was passing away. It was my mom's sister, her best friend, and like my second mom. Like, she was such a huge influence on my life when I was young. I loved my Aunt Karen. She was an amazing woman. So she's going through this, and I get us tickets to fly back home to go see her. Well, I can't find my brother. So my buddy who I was working with at the time at Worldwide Wholesale Forklift, Charles, we start knocking doors in the hood, door to door, because I heard he was within this couple block radius. Just if anybody seen him, anything. Didn't get hold of him, but he ends up coming to the airport right before I'm about to fly home. So we get him back home. He gets to see my aunt. She's dying, and it's kind of a hard time in life. We go back down to Florida, and by this time it's January, and his birthday was January 9th, so it just passed a little while. And I take him out to DreamWorks, which was kind of like, is it GameWorks? Yeah, GameWorks. It was kind of like a Dave & Buster's. So video games, all the latest and greatest and stuff. We got something to eat, played some video games. And I'm driving it back, and Florida's got a huge homeless population. And there's a guy, you can tell he's obviously on drugs, crossing in front of us in the crosswalk. And he's yelling at somebody that's not there. And I start crying. And I tell him, bro, I'm like, that's your fate, man. You don't get your stuff together. Like, man, I love you. You're better than this, man. You're much better than this. Fast forward to that next Friday, which was January 14th. I get off of work. I worked in Fort Lauderdale, lived in Miami, and he was in Hollywood, which was kind of like a little in-between spot. So I get off of work, stop by. Well, I stop by there, and he's just getting out of the shower, and he is so high and messed up that he can barely keep his eyes open. He's like bobbing in front of me. And so I get mad, and I start, I curse at him. I kind of wrestle with him. We have words, and I take off. And I'm on my drive home. It's about 45 minutes back to home. And I'm feeling so bad, man. I'm just like, I know he's hurting. It's not his fault. And so I decide, I'm gonna set my alarm. I'm gonna get up in the morning. I'm gonna go apologize to him. So I get up at the crack of dawn on that Saturday morning, and I drive to the apartment, and the door is cracked open. And I go inside, and it's a really small little, Section 8 ghetto apartment. So everything's kind of like living room and like dining room right here, and there's a little kitchen. The kitchen has a little knee-high wall, so I don't see past it. And as I walk to the break, I see him. He's lying there on the floor, and he's dead. kind of those surreal moments in life, like, nothing is ever going to be the same. It's like you feel like you've been transplanted to somebody else's life. No matter what's been happening, no matter how much you try to prepare yourself for something like that, because you can see him going down that path, there's nothing that can truly get you ready for that moment. And I remember I went down to him. By the time he was already really cold, and he had dried blood coming out of his nose and out of his ears. And I remember I was on the floor with him, and I just held him.
Wow.
And I remember telling him, I'm sorry for every single time that I've ever failed you. And I told him I was never going to forgive myself.
So, not to interject and like cut your story off, I have to make the statement because this is a conversation that I've had with my mom and my sister on many of occasions. I think at this point you can't blame yourself for shit like that. He made his choices. There was nothing. I feel awful that you guys had an argument as one of your last conversations. That would weigh on me extremely heavy. Like that breaks my heart. But also, you weren't doing anything except trying to help him. You were trying to make him understand that there's better ways out there to do things. You know what I mean? And it came. I can honestly, I know that it came from a heart of love, not anger. You know what I mean? So you can't really you can't hold that over your head, man. I don't think you do at this point. I think you know well enough to know that, you know what I mean. You were speaking out of love, and it wasn't out of anger. So no, that's terrible, man. I don't think you said that in your testimony. I never knew that.
I didn't go into much depth. I don't think it was my first time too. It was the first time ever telling the story. I don't think I went into as much depth. I kind of just tried to get through it as much as I possibly could. I remember being so nervous to do it.
That was pretty heavy, dude. My mom and I know I was homeless there for a few months, and my mom and sister used to always, they would wait for a phone. I would go 5, 7, 14 days without speaking to them, and they were always afraid that I was in a ditch somewhere. Todd would come and pay. I remember he told me the one time, I don't remember this. I guess I was sitting against a wall up at Chapel Hill Mall, couldn't find a ride. And so I was just sitting middle of winter, sitting there. He came and picked me up, and I guess I smelled terrible. Like he took me. I don't even know where he took me. He told me, but they were all there. And then he called my mom, and she was at least thankful I was alive at that point. You and I both know you can't get to that point of wanting to change until you're at that point yourself, man. You trying to force that on him, and you trying to make him understand it wasn't going to happen. You know what I mean?
I know now. You can't fix or change anybody. It's impossible.
Yeah.
That's you, and that's God. That's the only thing that's possible for that. And but at that time I didn't know. And at that time I didn't know, and I took that burden. And I immediately I moved back to Ohio. So at this point, I'm thinking I'm never coming back to this place, man. I got out. I was always, especially when I was younger, as a big city guy. I lived in Houston, I lived in LA, I lived in, Miami. It was like, I liked the life and all that kind of stuff. And so I moved back to Ohio because my mom is having a really difficult time. And I think it's better to have, I'm there. I'll try to help her through. That was my thinking going into it, though. But I mean, I'm so messed up. They're so messed up. Her and my sister, it's hard to explain the afterwards of it. It was kind of like a blur of a couple years of like just trying to survive. And it was hard for me too, because I remember coming back, my whole thing was to come back to be around them. But I stopped hanging around them really because it was a constant reminder. My mom is just broken. And one thing I can hang her hat on was that she was always such a really good mom. And it was her firstborn. And to this day, she's doing so much better. But I think it took a part of her. It's why they don't have a name for it. I mean, you can lose a parent, you can lose there's no name for losing a child. It's unnatural.
No.
It's not the order of things. So I stopped hanging around them. And in fact, I'm saying I don't hang around anybody that used to know me because I can fake the funk if you don't know me. I don't want to deal with it. So, but if you knew me before, you could tell there was something different. There was something missing. There was something going. So I made sure not to hang around anybody that knew me from before. And I start getting into really toxic relationships after that. I look back now and I see that it's twofold. One, you can tell a lot about somebody of how they feel about themselves, of who they choose to be with. It's like battered women. It's I deserve this. I feel so little about myself. I don't leave because I kind of deserve this. And I even see now, healing even more. I had my own part to play. I chose people who were shallow because I was shallow. I didn't want to delve down. I wanted an external focus. not internally. I can't look at any of this because this is just, it's too much pain. It's too much of a mess. I'm not ready to deal. So I'm going to externally focus on somebody and put all my blame on somebody and put all my, all that burden on somebody else. So I'm just as much to blame into all that. But going through all that, I remember getting out of kind of like a drunken stupor at that time, and about 2 years, and I realized I was married. I was married to my ex-wife, and so I tried to, I made my bed. I was going to lie in it, and I tried to stick it out. We made it almost a decade, and eventually, I just couldn't take it no more. It just was nothing that a marriage should be. The last couple of years, we lived kind of separately. We lived in the same house, but we had two separate lives.
Yeah.
So I filed for divorce from her, and that weekend I met my son's mother. And at the time, it was like a worse version. And I can't blame her totally. Again, I have to blame myself. I was looking for something that was going to, make me externally focused. But that was a new, different kind of toxicity. I think we both were at a place where it was just this, it's hard to explain. It was so bad that I eventually started using meth so bad that it was all day, every day, and I had to function with it to get everything done, try to cope with life. And I remember the first time doing it. It was the first time I think I was ever hook, line, and sinker with something where it got me. Like it was like, and I just understand now, like it was meth in the bloodstream is synthetic adrenaline. I was always kind of the adrenaline junkie. Let me jump out of airplanes, ride roller coasters. I like that kind of stuff. So it was like that feeling all the time that I didn't have to deal with me. So I leave her and I start living with a friend of mine. And the funny thing was, I moved with my buddy Steve. In fact, not far from here. He was in Sawyerwood. Our store here is in Lakemore. So literally right around the corner from where I was. And my meth abuse probably 5 to 6, 7 times what it was. So now I didn't have any other responsibility except, work and do meth. But I put on like 20 pounds. And my mom being like, "Oh, you look so much better." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm doing so good." But I didn't have that stress.
Wait, on meth?
Yeah, that toxic relationship though, from that being that stress all the time. I actually put on weight, So that's going, man. My son's mother, I remember I got a CPO in the mail, a certified protection order, and I hadn't seen her in probably a good 7 months. Nothing had been around. So I go to the hearing. And without a shred of evidence, man, not a picture, not a witness, nothing they granted. So now I can't be around here 2 years, can't see my son at all. Like I'm nothing. And it's no coincidence that I think the very next day or the day after, I went to the needle. I started slamming meth, started doing it intravenously. I realize now that you have to do that, to go that route, there has to be a certain amount of self-loathing. Like all drug addicts.
There was a line that I always had, and I'm not that we'll get right back to your story, but I've started writing a book, and I'm about 12 chapters into writing it. So there's been a lot of like rehashing old stories and memories and stuff like that. And I just wrote the chapter where the first time I went to the needle, and I was dope sick from doing oxys and opanas. I was living in this house. I owned the house, but it was a trap house, dude. It was all gutted. Like we started restoring it, and it was just, my buddy was living with me because my wife had left me with the kids, and I'm sitting there dope sick as shit. And I always had this line: never going to touch a needle. I knew, like, if I touched a needle, it was going to be over with. Imaginary line, but it was a line that I drew in the sand pretty firmly for a long time. He's sitting on the couch and I'm going through it, man. Cause Oxy, Opanas, like those withdrawals are terrible. So he's like, look, man, he was like, I can go to the falls, get us a gram of dope. He was like, but you'll have to shoot it. And I was like, I can't snort it. And he's like, it's kind of a waste. So I'm like, I was so sick. I was like, fuck it. He went and got it, man. And yeah. And like you said, it's that certain, from that point forward, when I put that needle into my arm, you're exactly right. I knew I was hurting myself, and I just wanted it to all be done. I like about 3 to 6 weeks into using a needle, I just literally hoped for a hot shot every day because I was like, I can't function without this shit. Like it's ruining my life. I'm nobody. Like I'm worthless. I enjoy hurting myself with that needle every day. I don't know what I love more, the dope or the fact that I was poking myself with a needle because I knew it hurt. Yeah. And it's that imaginary line, man. Once you cross that line, it's all bad.
Yeah, and that's how too. The process is part of it. The hurt, That whole process. It's part of it. It's I don't know. It's anything that to numb the pain, but after you do it long enough, especially with the needle, it's no longer even numb, and you're just trying to get semi-normal. And even semi-normal, you still there's no escaping it eventually.
You hate yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you do. You do. So I started going to the needle, man, and the guy I was living with, Steve, he called up my mom and sister, and he ratted on us. He let them know, hey, I'm to do it with him, but now he kind of went to this route. So they do an intervention on me, and of course I take off. You're not going to tell me what to do, you know.
Right.
I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to Michigan, this girl for 2 weeks, and I'm going to get clean. Of course, that never happened. So I come back and I tell him, fine, man, I'll go to treatment, but I'm not doing inpatient because I'm not that bad.
Yeah.
I'm not that
Yeah.
bad.
Okay.
Okay. Tell ourselves. So I go to IOP out of the public health building over there at West Market. It was just brand new, and I wasn't court ordered, so I didn't have to go to meetings. I didn't have to, I went to IOP. I think it was 3 times a week. Yeah, it was it was a very half-hearted effort for somebody else, and it was not going to last. I remember I started working with my sister at a bar when I was it's still there. Of course, I kind of started drinking then too.
Can I ask you a question real quick?
Yeah.
Because it just popped in my mind. So how many rehab facilities have you been to?
Only two.
Okay.
Only two. Went through lots of therapy though.
Okay, so facilities and treatments, like total, like IOP and inpatient, you've been to 2?
Yeah, 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you personally, and obviously this isn't for everybody, I'm not saying this is advice, do you think those programs helped you?
I think they do help to a certain degree. I wouldn't be doing this now if I didn't believe that. If I didn't believe it helped to a certain degree. I believe there's better ways. I believe that the model that they have right now, which they push, which is the OMOS model, which is clinical. You bill Medicaid. There's only so much head knowledge you can give somebody. I've been through so much therapy and the IOP before, marriage counseling, all those other kinds of things. When I went to the Alpha House later on, everybody in my group called me Counselor CJ. Because I was, man, I can tell you what she's going to say before she says it, bro. Like, I know most of this stuff. But I do believe this. Like, I've found this out. In fact, it was at the meeting I started at New Hope. Somebody asked me, it was an open discussion, what's the difference between knowledge and wisdom? And what I always thought was wisdom is applied knowledge. And God kind of stopped me. He was like, no. And he kind of spoke something to me. It kind of spoke to your soul. So I stopped the meeting. I'm like, everybody just write this down because this is too good. This ain't me. This is too smart. I'm like, knowledge is gained from pain. We have all this knowledge we gain from pain. We know better, but we still don't do better. Why? Because wisdom is gained from the healing of that pain.
Yeah.
Because now that I'm healed from that pain, that situation comes up, I can choose better now. I can do better. I'm no longer bound by the trauma of that situation of what happened in my life. So that wisdom is gained through the healing of it. And it's that healing of it that really sets us free from our past and everything else. So we'll get back to go to IOP, fake the funk. I graduate from there. I think it's a day or 2 later I started using it again. I remember the first time I didn't go to the needle the very first time. After that, it wasn't the same. So in my mind now, hey, I gave it a shot. We're good. I'm going to go ahead and go full trap life. I don't care no more. I started working at traps originally as security. Using my Marine skills for stuff. Kind of worked my way up through the ranks of all that kind of stuff. 1%ers and all everybody else that kind of live, that rules that whole drug trade. And I started running my own traps, started counterfeiting money, robbing game rooms, robbing drug dealers, doing what I could. And I was pretty good at being bad. I was pretty good at being bad. I was always setting up the next thing for the next thing.
It's that adrenaline, man.
Yeah,
I was the same way. I got so good at being a criminal and being bad, and I think it's that adrenaline that you get when you do sketchy shit. It's just as addictive as going and getting your dope afterwards.
Yeah, it is. It's anything that relieves the self, that burdens the self. So yeah, I go full trap life, man. And I'm just doing it. I'm not caring. I remember, and getting to a point, I'd always have to try to up the ante. Because it's just like anything else. Anything else that is sinful, and you try to fill that God-sized hole inside of you, but it's not God. It's never enough, and you have to try to go bigger each time. Whether it's materialism, whether it's women, no matter what it is, it's never going to be enough, and it kind of loses that power to hold you over for that time, and so you have to go bigger. So man, I remember it was getting to a point that I just didn't really want to be here anymore. I was tired. I was done. And it was May 24th of 2018, and I went and robbed 3 plugs within about 2 hours of each other. And these are people you don't rob. You know, there's going to be retribution. And I remember being like, okay, it's going to end. You know, it's okay. You know, and not really caring. And I'm in this trap house, and it's now May 25th. It's about 3 a.m. And I never forget because I checked my phone, and I'm sitting there, and I feel like this warmth come over my body, and almost like this vibration. And I remember feeling peace for the first time in decades. I mean, decades, real peace. You know, I was a ball of trying to just survive for most of my life. You know, ever since probably moving here to Akron as a kid. And crying like a baby, talking snot bubbles. And I'm in this trap house. And I later talked to the dude that was sitting next to me, and he had an AK in his lap, and he's freaking out. He's like, dude, I was letting you know, but I was freaking out. This dude, you just robbed like 3 trap houses hours ago, and now you're sitting here crying. I thought you was about to kill us all. He's like, I was holding that thing for dear life. And but I'm crying, man, and I know it's him. I know it's God. And I remember thinking, having this conversation in my head with him, like, what are you doing, bro? Like, have you seen my life? Have you seen the absolute wasteland of my life, of the hurt and everything that I've caused myself and so many people? You got the wrong guy. You got the wrong guy. And just feeling the kind of that guilt at the time, but also feeling that peace and knowing that he kind of gave me this opportunity for a reason. And I didn't know why then, but this is my one shot. This is my one shot to turn it around. And so I go back to my mom's. I message them, tell them I'm done. I go back to my mom's, and I had a buddy of mine try to find me a treatment place, and that's what he did for a living. And this is the middle of June, and there's no beds. My 2 prerequisites were this. One, even though I knew it was God, I didn't want to be faith-based because I kind of was raised a little bit in the Catholic Church when I was younger, and my idea of Christianity was Catholicism, which is damnation. You know, you do this, you're going to hell, kind of a thing. And I didn't want somebody cramming that down my throat, and I didn't want it inside Akron. I ran too many traps. It was owed too many favors around the city, so I wanted out. So we're calling around everywhere, and there's no beds. We're even calling into like Western Pennsylvania, Northern Kentucky, Eastern Indiana, and Southern Michigan, and there's nothing available. And it's summertime. If anybody knows anything about treatment centers, summertime there's beds everywhere because addicts will sleep on a bench. It's winter, they fill up. So there's one that opens up in Austintown. It's called California Palms, and they geared towards veterans. And I go on the website, and it's like the Shangri-La rehabs. It's a converted hotel. You get your own room. It looks so awesome. We call up there. They stopped taking my insurance the day before. I was so mad. But during this time, there's one at the Elf House over in there. And so finally I concede, I'm going to go. Okay, it's faith-based. I'm going to go. And I get there, man, and God starts working in my life from the jump. He gives me a rack mate. His name was Scott. He was a youth pastor. Became an alcoholic, but good dude. Okay, we walked me through the Bible a lot. And I graduated there in 4 months. It was a 6-month program. I graduated in 4 months, but I stayed there for 2 months as house monitor, kind of like the head resident. I ran the house. Left there, went back to Akron, back to sober living, trying to do the next right move. That's when I started going to New Hope. I just had a whim. I knew some board members that were on the place I was staying that went there, Donnie and Chris, and they had taken me there. And I remember from the jump feeling like kind of a church home. Like it was, they accepted me for who I was. You have the rag on my hat, a hat to the side, praising Jesus up and down, and they were just like, oh, that's awesome. Yeah. So it was very cool. Got involved with them. Eventually, man, I started opening up that meeting up there. It was called New Hope for Recovery. And it was kind of my own kind of version of what I thought meetings would be. And I remember going through my notes that I took at Alpha House, all my classes, and everything I did was inside of there. So one week we'd have a testimony. Next week it would be like a spiritual topic discussion. So it'd come up with something, we discuss it. It always kind of rotated what it was, kind of keep it fresh, kind of a deal. I'm doing that. I eventually am got a job working construction, making good money, had a place at Stowe, doing good with my life. But at this time, I'm realizing I want to get into ministry. I want to do this, and I want to get into ministry. So I'm praying for it for months. Lord, let them come together. Let my job and my calling kind of come together. And he grants it. I get a call one day from my old director at the place I was at treatment, and he wants to give me a job at the Grafton as a house director there. And as much as I want to take it, I told him, man, I got to make sure that's what God has for me. So I pray about that night for a couple hours. Next morning, again, pray for a couple hours. And I'm driving to church on Sunday morning. And I'm going to go see your brother's sermon. And I'm talking to God. And I'm like, Lord, you created me. You know I'm stubborn and very hard-headed. I need you to shout this to me that this is what you want me to do, because I'm ready to leave everything behind, all my life, and go chase what you have. And I get to the sermon, and it's all about purpose, calling, stepping into it. And I'm still like, okay, God. I mean, it's kind of there, but you're gonna. I told you, shout it to me. And the last thing your brother puts on the teleprompter was Hebrews 10:24 and 10:25, and it's in my Bible highlighted when I was in treatment. There's a little note in the corner. It says, the single reason I turned the corner in my recovery. And it was about meeting in the morning devotional, starting your day off with God. That was enough for me. I talked to my boss next day, put in my 2 weeks, and left and moved into a bedroom in a house in Grafton with 12 guys. So it's kind of awesome. You know, I did that, was there, and then I moved to their Paynesville campus, which is 36 bed. It was a giant facility. Got to run. It was like running a small city. So I had a total of 45 guys with on-site pastor, on-site chapel. We had water trucked in because the wells wouldn't contain that much water for us. It was really cool, and I really kind of got good at it, and I enjoyed it. And I felt like I was doing something real with my life, fulfilling, having purpose. Honestly, thought I was going to be there the rest of my life. Some things happened this last year. I really won't go delve into it. I don't like to speak bad about things. It is what it is. We're all failed human beings. But one thing I did learn during that process was this, is that man will always fail you, God will never will. And just because we experience some type of church hurt doesn't mean it had anything to do with God. It had to do with human beings. And that's okay. And he carried me through. So I left them.
I mean, I can relate to that 110%. There was a reason that I didn't go to church for quite a long time. Things I saw, things I didn't like. And again, we're not going to go into details, but it really jarred me. And my wife's always gone to church. She's always, you know what I mean? And she's the one that finally set me back. And she's like, Chris, like, God didn't hurt you. People hurt you. Like that wasn't God that did that. That was just people being people, you know?
Yeah.
And it took a long time for me to get that through my head, dude. Like there was a long time I was just like, nope, I'm not dealing with religion. I'm not dealing with church, not dealing with God. Like I am now, but you're absolutely right, man. Like
it's hard to experience, especially, I mean, I'm working in ministry.
Very hard experience.
You know, it's like, man, this is hitting me. I'm getting ready to get married. It's just was a lot at that time. And it's, I'm still processing some things still to this day with it. It was not an easy experience. But in through it all, I knew God had purpose in it. If God is allowing this in my life, there is a purpose for the pain. And I just have to hold fast to that kind of a thing. One thing that did help me with that too was understanding what, you know, God didn't hurt you, religious people hurt you. And they did the same thing to Jesus. They crucified him. You know, that's what he came to do. That it was not about religion, it was about relationship. It's not about following the rules, it's about getting to know who I am, and then you'll want to do the right things because I'm going to work on your heart and change you for the better from the inside. It's a process. So I kind of go through that, and I'm living on campus up there. So I helped some people start a sober house over in the Willoughby area because I was in Paynesville. Got married. That was kind of a whole ordeal. And the original thing was we're going to sell her house down here in Uniontown, and then she was going to move with me to Paynesville. That kind of got to throw a wrench in the works. I did a short stint with Tal Behavioral Health up there in Cleveland. Great people, Morty and Shia, two Jewish guys who run the show. They really want to help people. I really enjoyed working there, but the only thing that was different, it was secular. I'm a faith-based, you know. I could have all the head knowledge in the world. I was really smart in school. It was those kinds of things until God moved from my head to my heart. It didn't matter. So that's what I wanted. That's why I connected with people for. So it's kind of funny. I wasn't even looking for another job. I was kind of happy at Tal. And a friend of mine met with Dan Gregory here, who's the president and founder of Restore, Addiction Recovery. And he's talking about, hey, he was looking for somebody for this role for them, somebody to kind of carry the torch. They've got another guy here, Paulie Hitchcock, who's an amazing guy. He's got a couple years here in recovery, I think a little over 3 now. He does the director of operations here. Does an amazing, amazing job. Like I told Dan the other day, it's very rare that I'd see somebody because after a while doing the job, running a place, I knew I was good at it. I saw my campus, like my last year at the Alpha House, I had 42 graduations total. The rest of the 5 houses of the ministry had 19. So we were doing something right there in my campus.
Yeah.
And I see Paulie do it, man. He's phenomenal. And to see it from the outside, people tell me, "Oh, you do this so well." It's like I'm just doing what God wants me to do. But to see him, he does an amazing job here. So I got to give him a big shout out, man. Oh, you're doing it, bro, and your heart is in the right place for it. So I meet with Dan over about a series about a month and a half. Meet with Pastor Dave, who is the director of resident care and the coordinator care here. He kind of runs the show, all the classes. He's the pastor. They are a subsidiary of like Grace East, which is where Chapel came from, and Newt Larson and all that kind of stuff. Pastor Dave's brother, Jeff, actually is the head pastor for all the campuses for Grace here. So yeah, I meet with all of them, man. I'm coming to be. They want me to come in, and eventually I come back. I've been here about 2 weeks now, and I see all the reasons why, man, God had me down the path that he had me on. It was to come here, and everything they hear, I cannot exalt this place enough because, one, it's exalting the Lord, and two, they're completely transparent. I've been around a lot of different ministries, a lot of different things that people they say the name of Jesus, but they're still doing worldly things on the side. This place is 100% completely transparent with their funding, how it goes, what the program is. The COO, the CFO, and the president don't take any pay through this place because it's a calling for them. They've made their money in the world, and they could still command a huge salary in the secular world, but they decide that this is what they want to give back to.
That's awesome.
Beautiful facility here, man. It's a $5 million facility, completely already paid for, bought and paid for. The funds were raised. God was in it. It's amazing, and it's a little different than most of the models out there. The big model out there is what they call the OMOS model, which you talked about earlier. It's Medicaid being billed, and then housing where they're housed to. Here is a work-based program. It's a work-based program, so the guys get back to work after 30 days, and they help fund the program through their job. So you're giving back while you're there. And I'm a firm believer, especially as men, we're called to work. If you look at the Hebrew word, it's avodah. It means work, but it also means worship. We truly worship God by providing for our families. You know what I'm saying? We told Adam, I want you to tend the soil. This is what I want you to do. We're meant to kind of do that. So yeah, restore addiction recovery, man. So I'm out here trying to just grow them to that next level and come alongside what they're already doing amazing things. I'm truly blessed. If I'd have known who'd been here that I was going through last year, it'd have made the ride a little easier, but God doesn't want that for us, man. He wants us to experience the pain, and there's some things I think I needed to burn off of me, too. Wherever we're going through.
Oh, there's always, the journeys, I mean, you're always, when you're recovering, man, you don't ever recover. You know what I mean? It's a journey, dude. You don't ever reach the finish line. With me, man, and it's wild now that I've gotten back to like me being in the semi. I talk to God all the time. You know what I mean? Like it's just it's me, my dog, and God. And if I got something on my chest, I'm not feeling some sort of way, we just talk about it. You know what I mean? And it's wild, like the things that I've gotten into, the podcast, the website, the trying to start a nonprofit, you know what I mean? Like all these little projects that I have wrapped up, it's wild how after I got back to including God in them, I'm getting better ideas. I'm getting like things are coming together. I'm like, well, I could fund this project through this way where I'm not like asking for money, but we can fund it. You know what I mean? Like, and it's where I went for months trying to help people with the website and doing the podcast and not really having a direction. Just, I knew I wanted to help people, but I was clueless. I'm like, I don't know how to fund it. I don't know what steps to take. And the second I start praying about it, it's like, oh, okay, we can figure this out. It's not that hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing, man. And it's, and like we talked,
we don't use
what's
enough.
that?
It's nice to have that alone time, like you said, you have in the trunk with God. And people think like prayer time is like some time, like since you grew up Catholic, you had recited prayers, you did the Lord's Prayer, you did Hail Mary, there was no relationship involved in that. God just wants conversation with you. Trust me, there's been some times I had some rough patches in my faith, and my God. There are times it was like, you know what? I'm really mad at you right now, and I'm probably mad at myself, but I know you can take it, and you don't have ego like us. So right at this moment, I can put it on you. And God doesn't really care what you're saying to him. He just wants you to talk. Talk to me
Yeah,
and be real with me. I already know what you're going through. Just talk to me about it. I want to help you. That's your
absolutely.
experience now, man. God gets into it, and there's just a certain level, man, that it's we can only do so much with these two hands in this plane.
Yeah, it's more understanding. It's more and you don't feel like you're doing it by yourself. Like I used to worry all the time, man. I would worry about what's going on like in my life, what's going on at home, and nothing terrible was happening. But it's just that you don't worry about things like you normally do. It's I run my day to day with if it's going to happen, it's going to happen, and it's going to happen because he wants it to happen.
Yeah, it
So,
is. We don't have this concept, man, of what sovereign truly is. Sovereign. It means God is all knowing in all places, at all times,
yeah,
with all power. So if it is good, bad, or indifferent, and it's happening in your life, it's there for a reason. And sometimes we have to just buck up. It's almost like I started reading the Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, which is Stoicism, which is basically
yeah,
making peace with the worst possible outcome, so nothing jars you. Because the only power we really have in life is control ourselves and our reactions to other people. That's it. That's our
yeah.
only control. They talk about the serenity prayer, God. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage for the change
I,
I
I
can.
I like that. I'm trying to get away from focusing on the things that could potentially happen that are catastrophic and negative. That sends me down a rabbit hole that I don't like going down, man. I get it 100%, but I'm always like I'm in the truck and I get to a certain point at night where I'm exhausted and I'm like I'm going to fly off the edge of this road if I fall asleep. I'm like slapping myself. I'm like what's going on? Like I can't. I start thinking of worst case scenarios and I spiral, bro.
Get that faith up, man. Get that faith up. Because I don't know, my adage is this, is that, you know what? Only he knows. It could be,
Yeah.
something could happen. I could get a car accident. I could, we never know. There could have been brain aneurysms I was born with
Yeah.
that happens in my sleep. And I just know that I am so glad that I've got to spend almost last 7 years of getting myself sober and being there for my family, meeting my amazing wife, being able to help all these guys that come through the program and just be a beacon on a hill, a light on the hill, and salt and light, man. Salt and light. It means I'm supposed to bring light to the world. I'm supposed to make things better for people. And I'm supposed to take them first in that adage. And if I have to go, and today is my last day on earth, and I get to meet Jesus, and I'm glad I had that opportunity to turn around. He touched me in that trap that day.
Well, I think it's a fair assumption to make that there's too many people in the world that are hyper focused on wealth and material items. There's guys like yourself and guys like I'm assuming, and from what you've told me, it is guys like us. I get my fulfillment, and I feel like the richest man in the world being able to come home to my little 1,200 square foot home with my wife that I know adores the shit out of me, with my dogs, my great relationship with my kids, my mom, my beat up ass Chevy truck in the driveway that I own. You know what I mean? I can go to bed at night and fall asleep like that. It's where I used to lay awake. Like I'm chasing this money. I'm chasing this. How am I going to get cash for this? Like, I don't even worry about it anymore. I'm happy. I'm fulfilled. But I think too many people in society just get wrapped up on, I need to keep up with the Joneses, man. And you really don't, like, because those people, you go into those houses, dude. We've got friends, man, that are extremely wealthy and they are the most miserable people you will ever meet in your life. They hate each other. And I don't even mind saying it. I'm calling it all out right now.
Well, Biggie had it right back in the day. Notorious B.I.G. More money, more problems. If you got
Yeah.
a job that makes 50,000, you got 50,000 in
Yeah.
bills. If you got a job that makes 250,000, you got 250,000 in bills. It's more money, more problems. But it's not. It's money. I see people post on social media all the time that money's the root of all evil. No, the love of money is the root of all evil. Because I know some people have money that are amazing people. I know some people have money that are miserable people.
Yeah.
So it's the love of it, and it's the love of anything. I truly believe this, that anything that you make an idol over God, it takes that place inside of you, and then again it becomes greed. It's never
Yeah.
enough. Like there's literally people who have hundreds of billions of dollars, which means that your children's 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 children are never going to have to work really, and
Right.
that's all you do is wake up every day and obsessed about money. How
Yeah.
is that possible?
And like you have it. Like what? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like this. You're never going to get that self fulfillment, man. We got to fill that God-sized hole with God, or else we'll always look for something else, and it's never going to fill it, man. It's never going to be. It's never going to do what He can do. I spent, like I said, almost 40 years of my life like that, where it was trying to be somebody to the world that I thought they wanted me to be, always falling short of that, always trying to hold myself to some perfect standard, always just trying to wear this mask. Like I tell guys all the time when they're in recovery, man, be vulnerable. For men, especially, I mean, we're bigger guys. For the longest time, I thought it was, I'm supposed to be this guy at the world. I'm supposed to be this big, strong guy. No, it's not, man. True strength is vulnerability. True
Oh,
strength is
dude,
taking off
yeah.
my mask and being real with you. And these are the things I struggle with. These are the things that I'm being real with.
Yeah, there's that saying it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener at war. Not to like sound like Rogan or anything, because he mentioned that on his podcast, but that's a very true and honest statement, man. Like, you and I are bigger guys. Like, and I have always, not necessarily always, in the recent years, I'll tell you a quick story real quick. My friend came in from Alabama. My wife got him a job, right? And we took him out to dinner. He was staying at the hotel down in Green. So we took him back, decided to go in and sit down with him for a couple minutes, right? Because I was never going to see him again. It was for a while. He was on his last training session. So we're in there sitting, and my wife is a manager at Diebold. So she starts chatting up all the people that are in there, because it's all the service techs that work underneath her. She's like, "Hi, I'm Mary Tackett. Like, what's your name? What do you do here?" Like, we went in for like a little meet and greet. This guy, she walks up to the bar, she extends her hand. She's like, "Hi, I'm Mary Tackett. What do you do for Diebold? Do you work at Diebold?" And he literally like looks at her and he's like, "If you don't get the F away from me," he's like, "I'm gonna knock you the f out." And so I'm sitting with my buddy, and Zach's the smaller guy. He's like, "You might want to figure out what's going on there." And she's like, "What?" She starts yelling. She's like, "What did you just say?" And he stands up on her. So I get up and I walk over. I'm like, "What's going on here, dude?" Now, first of all, I'm not going to hit this guy. He's trashed. She works with him.
Yeah.
The whole hotel staff isn't worried about anybody but me. Like, the whole hotel staff gets in front of me, and they're like, "Are you good? I'm like, "I'm good as long as he doesn't touch her, but like, you need to get him out of here, you know?" And so we're finished, and my buddy Zach, he looks at me. He's like, "Dude, you're 3 times that guy's size." He's like, "And he disrespected your wife. Why didn't you just level him?" He was like, "You were in the right." And I was like, "No, I wasn't." I was like, what would that accomplish? And here's the thing that people need to understand. In a situation like yours and mine, where we have things to lose at this point, I've got strikes on my record. If I go back in front of a judge for a felonious assault, I'm gone. You know what I mean? That man could turn around and sue me. He could take our house. He could all because of a little bit of this. You know what I mean? And I've learned over the years, dude, true strength doesn't come from fighting people and being aggressive and being a bully and being an asshole, or being able to beat your chest in like a situation like that. It's being able to walk away and know, hey man, if I had to handle shit, I could handle it, but I'm not gonna. Like, that's not gonna do anything productive. It's, my wife could have gotten fired. There's all these consequences that could have transpired from me putting my hands on that man. And that's what people need to understand. It doesn't make you a bitch. It doesn't make you soft to walk away. In my opinion, and in a lot of other people's opinions, it actually makes you stronger. You know what I mean?
It is. It's understanding, man, that I learned this, that if I let your words or actions dictate who I am, that's control. That's power over me. That's power over me.
Yeah.
You let me get out of myself, and I'm going to
Yep.
allow you and your mouth to take away from what God has built in my life, my family, everybody else. Take me away from them. I'm not going to do that, man. That's
No.
not going to happen. It is, and it's understanding that when you guys see somebody bigger, they will try to provoke, or they get a little buzz in them. They think they're all of a sudden they get
The
10
little
feet
guy,
tall,
the
bulletproof.
little guy syndrome. Yeah.
I used to fall into it all the time as when I was younger. It was like but I always felt I had to, and I realized this though too, especially growing up, man. It was living in the hood, and it was, you got punked one time, you're gonna keep on getting punked. So I had to learn how to toss
Oh
these
yeah.
ones. I learned how to toss them from a young age, and it was. I realize now that I've gotten older that it was me putting on that mask because I didn't want anybody to see that scared little boy inside. The one that felt abandoned,
Yeah.
the one that felt, out of place, the one that felt just all these things as a kid. And people would say words to hurt me, and I could physically hurt you then. So it was kind of like my let out. And now when guys rah-rah to me, because obviously I work in, recovery field, they get all, it doesn't
Oh,
matter because,
especially all those guys living together. I have no doubt they're in front of you all the time. Like, I'm gonna kill this dude.
I see it as pain, man. It's all played out in pain. There's a scared
Yeah.
little boy inside you, and you're trying to protect him right now. And I do know this too. Like, man, we don't see things as they are. We see them as we are. So
Yeah.
everything is an outward reflection of an inward feeling. I see the world as I am. So when I'm healed,
Exactly.
I have a good relationship with God, and I'm doing these things, I see things through that lens. But when I'm broken and I'm angry with myself and I'm doing that, I see the world through that lens. It's everybody's playing out their pain, man. And there's a lot of pain in the world today.
Well, there's another big lesson in that too. I mean, the only perspective anybody has, like you said, is your own. And the sooner you can understand people have their own perspective, they don't see things through your eyes, and you just come to terms with the fact that their opinion doesn't have to be your opinion. That would solve so many problems in the world off cuff. Like, you know what I mean? Everybody's big problem is, well, he should have voted for Trump or he should have voted for Kamala. Now I hate you. You know what I mean? It's stupid, but you have your perspective. You've lived your life. And yeah, man, it's everybody only has one perspective and it's your own.
That's what the devil does, though. Divide and conquer. Divide and conquer. It's
Yeah.
literally it's the oldest trick in the book. The more he can get us to divide about race,
Yep.
religion, politics, and we're all fighting amongst ourselves, they're all dividing and conquering every single one of us. So I think the world is the way that it is, man. We lost God. We took God,
Yeah.
we removed God from everything, and we wonder why, there's drag queens doing shows for children and want to give teenagers transgender surgery and just stuff that, man, if that would have happened when we were a kid, people would have called for was. That's insane.
Oh, there'd have been
Like,
wars
that is
started. There
demonic.
would have been like civil unrest back in the 80s when that shit happened. Like,
This is where we've gone to. The devil loves a slow fade. So if we change things like from like
Well,
1980 something until today, people will revolt. But he
I'm going to tell you,
slowly fades it, and now we don't realize it. And that's how sin and recovery. Guys in recovery, I tell them all, be careful of the little things because it's going to start with something small. Oh man, there's $5 on the ground. I can just take that. Nobody would know. Yeah, nobody's going to find out. But then it moves to, all right, now I can tell this white lie. Now I can tell, and it grows. And 6 months down the road, you back to shooting dope and robbing people because you allowed that slow fade. It slowly grows.
Yeah, 100%. I've been dealing with that with my daughter right now, man. You know, Nevaeh.
Yeah.
She started vaping. I got on her a little bit about that, and then now we have a rule in our house. Like Mary and I have never been like iron fist rulers. We've always been very open with the kids. If you went out and she's called us after she's been at a party trashed, like just to say she loves us. She's trashed on the phone. I'm not going to judge you as long as you don't drive. You know what I mean? I don't like that you're doing it, but I'm going to tell you shouldn't do it, but I can't stop you. And I would rather know about it. But it's now we've gotten into the lying and the other things that are progressing. And I'm like, the lying's kind of where I draw the line. You know what I mean? I haven't been open and honest with you about everything for you to turn around and lie to me now that we're kind of at the finish line. You're about to be 18. But yeah, man, it's those little progressions, man. It also works in the other direction though too. Like in order for me to continue to feel good and feel like I'm like making progress, dude, I have to stop and pick up trash. When I'm at truck stops, they destroy truck stops. I'll go out and pick trash up and throw it away. You know what I mean? It's holding the doors open for people and being like, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, sir, no, sir. It's little shit like that. You have to stay on top of your routine. You have to stay on top of trying to be a better and bigger person every single day, or you're going to start falling backwards. You can only go one direction.
Amen. And that's why most guys like Restore is a year-long program because they found that the odds that you'll be able to heal from what you're doing, from all the obsessiveness and all the drug addiction and all the mental affliction that comes with it. Because right around 90 days, your dopamine levels start to regulate back out.
Yeah.
And then you start feeling all the things you put off for years and years. So that 90 to 180 window is really when you can do that work on yourself. But now you've got to create good habits, create good work habits, start to rebuild back your life. Here is amazing because they do only have a work program, and you help to fund it so you feel like you're adding value to what you're doing. But the guys can leave out of here with like $9,500 in cash with their license back, everything else, because they will savings match you up to $3,000, which is pretty awesome. It's their gift to you on graduation. Here you get to go about it. And in that year's time, the odds are that you are astronomically higher than anything else that you'll never have to come back to treatment again. Yeah. And I also believe that this, man, every single day is got to start, man. Jesus, like I have to be in my word. Me personally, if I don't, I can tell the difference. I start feeling overwhelmed with life in general. I'm not praying as much as I should be. I'm not keeping that conscious contact with God. Even to this day, I tell him, I still struggle, man. Life's still life, and that's okay. Yeah. But I've learned to come to him and give my burdens to him and to transpose them onto him because I know he can carry them. He can carry them to where they are. And now to show these guys how it's done.
there has to be, everybody has to understand and realize too, and I say this like every episode, man. If you never struggle with adversity or go through problems or have problems, it's not going to be like you're never going to appreciate anything. Like your highs aren't highs unless you go through those lows. You know what I mean? That's why me going to prison, me being homeless, me being a complete fall down junkie drug addict, I know what the bottom looks like. And I'm sitting here now in my sunroom with like a whole setup in front of me. You know what I mean? A beautiful home, my beat up ass Chevy. Like I, I, and I'm happy. You know what I mean? I'm like, I know what the bottom looks like. I was a spoiled brat growing up. Todd probably told you. I know what having money is like. You know, I am more happy here than I've ever been in my life, but it's because I had to go to the pits of hell to find it. And you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get
And
that.
you're right, man. If you're not waking up in the morning and having some sort of meditation, prayer, go through your affirmations. I'm terrible, dude. I'll wake up and after back surgeries and shoulder problems and everything else, I wake up and I hurt and I'm immediately like, oh, this sucks. F this. And I know I'm speaking that. You know what I mean? And I've had to learn, keep your mouth shut for 5 minutes when you wake up, get stretched out, and then go do affirmations, recite what you're thankful for, talk to God, meditate. You know, even if it's only 5 minutes, even if it's while you're sitting on the shitter taking your morning dookie, talk to God, man. Like it doesn't matter. He don't care.
I believe this. I believe this. That's what I do. My first thought waking up in the morning, as I realize I'm kind of conscious, is thank you, Jesus. Thank you for
Yeah.
another day that I do not deserve. For the crap that I pulled in my life, for the things that I've done, I don't deserve this. This life that you have for me now, it's all gravy. Because I don't. I shouldn't have this. I shouldn't have the life I have. I should be able to do the things that I do. It's all because of you. And I know this. I will start my day with a heart of gratefulness, with a heart of humility, because I know in a heart that is gracious and humble, things like depression, anxiety, and addiction, they can't live in a heart that's that way. It doesn't exist because you don't allow the world to dictate you. It was in Romans 12:2. Do not be conformed to this world. Instead, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. It's conformed, which is the world from the outside in. I'm letting the world, which I did most of my life, conform me to what I believe it should be. Christ, he transformed my heart from the inside out. So now, no matter what situation I'm in, I can do the things that he wants me to do, and understand my identity comes from him now, and not the things that I do. It's not from what I try to put to the world that I am. It comes from him and him alone, and I can rely on that now. I don't have to worry about me having to perform. Because I always thought for the longest time, that's kind of made me a good Marine though too. Is because man, I gotta outperform these guys. I love competition. Anybody who knows me, I love competition. Like I love to win. But now in normal life, I can leave that to sports, and that's okay. Normal life, I don't have to win at everything. I don't.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to prove to anybody that I'm better than them, or I prove to myself that I'm better. I think it had a lot to do with probably abandonment issues with my dad. Was that if I can just do this perfectly, he'll love me. If I can just do this perfectly, he'll love me. So I always felt like I had this perfectionism to me. And it's like I said, it's still things that me and God are still working out to this day, man. I tell these guys, man, coming to Christ and becoming a Christian, man, and getting in recovery, it is literally the hardest thing you're going to have to do. It is denying every natural fleshly instinct that you have, especially as a man. Like, it's very hard to do. It's not an easy walk, but man, it's so worth it because I don't have to have the burdens that I did once before.
You don't have to carry it.
Yeah, he's there with me. He's there with me.
Yeah.
I know that no matter what happens in my life, no matter how much I'll fail. People think that, you have to be like this perfect Christian. No, man.
Well,
sanctification's about getting to know him, and you get better along this walk. I'm a much different Christian I was a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, definitely 5, 6, and 7. I'm a much different. I'm a much more refined version. It's because though that I love him and I want to be better. I want to be better. I want people to meet me and realize that my life is not about me. My life is not about me. My life is about God and it's about others. And when I make it about God and about others, he lays the road out in front of me the way it should be walked.
Absolutely. No, and it's about, and anybody thinking about getting into a recovery program, anybody thinking about starting church, you have to always keep in the back of your mind, because it's what hindered me for years, is you're dealing with people. Like, and you can't let people be the reason that you walk out of recovery or walk out of the church or any, you know what I mean? I went CJ, I went, I think 6, 7 years, didn't step into a church because I didn't take my own advice. I put people at the center of it, and I was like, I'm not dealing with it. I don't want to do it. And every other church I would walk into, I was always like side eyeing. I'm like,
Yeah.
hmm,
Yeah.
hmm,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but it's you're there for God. Like you're, especially in a recovery based program like you're working in. Like everybody has to understand coming in there. If you're listening to this, checking CJ out, thinking about going to the center, you have to understand you're dealing with people. And people are going to let you down. You're going to walk in and talk to CJ one day. He's going to say some shit you don't like to hear. You're going to feel some sort of way. It happens. Dealing with people.
Just at Tal had a guy one time. We just got there and he had some birthday he wanted to go to for his daughter. And usually it was 30 days. You're not supposed to go anywhere and do nothing. Tal was a little more like as far as lax here. They're on lockdown for 30 days, and he wanted to, but something happened. They were taking drug tests at a CVS, and there was some old habits coming out. Somebody trying to five finger get some stuff.
Yeah.
And he asked me for it, and so I told him no, he's not allowed to go. And we were going to be allowed to go, but you're not. He goes, CJ, I'm mad at you. I go, that's all right, man. You can be mad at me. I'm still going to love you. Understand, because I realize you're just mad at yourself right now. Because I've been in your shoes, man. I understand what it's like. I'm going to
right. I didn't do it. I didn't do it. You did it.
Yeah, I'm going to give you that grace because it took a lot of grace for me to get here where I am today, and I still going to need more to where I'm going. It's man, giving these guys, loving them where they are. That's what I found out too, is that when we fail, and we have those certain failures in our lives, and we're showing unconditional love, the love of God during that time, it changes us. So, because we're so used to the world punishment, or get what you deserve, and when God gives you grace through people, it changes a part of you, man. It's like, okay, I understand what that is now. I understand the love of Jesus. He's not going to give us what we deserve, because what we deserved was death. He went to that cross for our sins. So now God literally looks at us and sees him, his perfect life, instead of our nastiness and everything that we've done. And that is an amazing thing. And if we can give that gift to somebody, that's where healing, that's where forgiveness, that's where all the things of the world kind of fade away. And now you can build yourself up into somebody through him that is going to do amazing things in this world. It's I can never imagine doing anything else for the rest of my life. Like, it's one of those things when you find a real calling, like I was called to do this. It's not like a job. It is, as much as you can get crazy, because it does. And we had like 7-8 intakes on Monday. It was completely nuts. Everybody's moving. There's times it's guys are going off here. I've had guys that were locked in a room, pooping in a bag. Like, I mean, all kind of crazy stuff doing this job for the years I have. But then I see the one guy, like my buddy Brian. He spent 18 months with me from the Akron area. And he comes through the program, goes to the discipleship program. He moves back. We're still friends to this day, but I saw him transform his life and give it to God. And he was living in the woods before he came to us, literally in the wilderness, in the woods. And now I see him doing that, and that makes it worth it. If I can just see one man turn his life around, give it to God, be back there for his family, you know what? I did more in this life than I ever thought I would.
Oh, absolutely. That was when I first started out in the very first episode. It was me, and I don't think you met my cousin Brian, but I told him, I said, out of all this that I'm trying to do, I said, if it helps, I said, I don't care if I do it for 10 years. If it helps one person, I'll feel like it was successful. It's a good feeling, man. But it's also, I don't know, man. That's part of my own recovery, dude. I feel like if I'm not helping people and if I'm not trying to do the next best thing, I feel stagnant. I feel, again, you can only go in one direction. You can go forward or backward. There is no, you don't sit still. That doesn't happen.
You talked about it earlier. You talked about, everybody, there is no finish line. All the success and happiness in life is earned on the climb up.
Yeah.
So keep climbing. Keep climbing. There's always a new level. There's always somewhere better to go. There's always another person to help. There's always taking yourself last. People think that, man, some job, some relationship, some car, some home is going to complete me. Like, I hit the pinnacle. And then we get on this plateau, and then we get miserable because we're no longer growing. We're no longer doing those things. Problem is, our plateau can lead to death. We got to make sure that we're always trying to grow. We're always trying to, I'm trying to be a better person than I was yesterday. Even if it's just, man, by just a millimeter. I still made a little bit millimeter today. I was a little kinder than I was yesterday. I didn't let my anger get the best of me. I did all these other things, drive, whatever it is. Dealing with life on life's terms is not easy, man. It's not easy.
No, no, not at all. But like I said earlier, man, the good days wouldn't be the good days unless you had the bad days.
Amen.
That's
Amen.
that's
You gotta
something I got to
pursue.
tell myself. That's something I got to tell myself all the time, man.
That's true.
Because it's easy to forget. It's easy to get caught up in the moment. It's easy to get angry. It's easy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially when we were who we were. That was second nature. Anger, fear. You know what I mean? So, is there anything else you want to talk about? I'm
Just to restore, man. Anybody out there needing help? Anybody out there that's knows somebody needs help, man? I promise you, we are a different program. I've been around this whole business for a while. There is not another program like this. It is its own kind of thing, and it is a complete spawning of men who came together and wanted something better. The president and founder son went through addiction. Never experienced anything like himself, was raised in the church, found a place in Columbus that he went to. After he got out, he wanted to do it himself. He felt God calling him. So he went out and raised money, and they got this land donated, built this place, and it is doing amazing things. I would
That's
not
so
be
awesome, man.
story.
That's been something I've wanted. I've always said if I had the money to do it, I would start a recovery house for second chance felons coming home that don't have job skills, don't have, you know what I mean?
That's the thing that we'll take
It's
them
such an
too.
awesome idea.
If they've battled with addiction at any point in their life, we've had guys come out of prison that
Yeah.
they want faith based. They want to know Jesus better. They want to get plugged in as far as a job, and we'll help them out, man. It's even if they battled in the past. That's what I love about it, because we're not beholden to Medicaid billing. That we are allowed to open up our doors to a little bit of a different of guys coming through. It's
Yeah.
you don't have to be, because I had a guy coming through at Alpha House one time. My buddy Brian Sadella, pastor now, who does a lot of prison ministry. He came out of prison. The guy was in there for 15 years. So he hasn't been addicted for like 10. He quit while he's inside there. He came to us, went to send him to the treatment center. Like, oh, he's not an addict. He hasn't been doing drugs in 10 years. So we had to make him leave. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, wait a minute. Well, what are we really doing here? Like,
This
are we
is
helping people?
so flawed,
To me,
dude.
it's all a thing. So anybody out there, man, please spread the word. Restore Addiction Recovery. The website is that www.restoreaddictionrecovery.com. Come check us out. You can come take a tour of the place. It is absolutely amazing. We are over on Sanitarium Road in Lakemore. It is the old Glen Bay grounds from back in the day, and it is an amazing group of guys.
Hold on. Glen Bay, Rock Creek?
No. There was
No.
one,
Oh,
I
okay.
think back in the day. It was that's why it was called Sanitarium Road. It was an old sanitarium here.
Oh,
Way
okay.
back in the day.
Okay.
Yeah, and so the land here was given to us. We're right next to Tyler's redemption place. Hope United,
Okay.
little spot that they have meetings and stuff like that. But it is a great place to come. We will be welcomed with open arms. We will do our best to help you get to the next phase of life. And this is one of those places, man. If you're looking for the constant Groundhog Day that we have in addiction, where you wake up and it's the same day over again. And then you go to, I know guys have been to 20, 30 treatment places, 30-day programs, 60-day programs. If you're really tired of that endless cycle, come here, spend a year, and I guarantee, man, you spend it, you will change your life for the better, and you'll get out of here, and you'll be that father, that brother, that husband, that son that God always intended you to be.
I will I'm gonna do you a solid. So the website, I'm gonna throw your link. If you text me or you just said it, it's www. What is it?
Yeah, I'll give it to you. I'm sending it to you now.
Yeah, just send it to me. I'll throw a link up on the like I said, the website's not put together, but anybody interested in a faith-based recovery program, head over to the YouTube channel. While you're there, subscribe to the page, click on the website link, and scroll down to the bottom. We'll have a link for it on there. I'll get that put up as soon as we get off the podcast. Other than that, I think, dude, I've been looking at myself. I don't know if my blood pressure is like through the. I've had this pain in my side this whole time, and I'm looking at myself, and I'm like, "Is your blood pressure like? Are you gonna die on camera? Do I look red to you?"
No, man, I'm not necessarily. I felt the light outside though, so it's kind of like dim.
Okay.
My eyes look
I've been
squinty.
sitting here looking at
Right
myself the
outside.
whole time. I'm like, dude, you look sunburned. And I took my blood pressure med. So if I fall out after this episode, God and I will be sure to
I think you're just
check
comparing
up on
yourself to
you.
me. I got that olive skin tone, the Puerto Rican. So it's just making you look a little redder. That's all. Because you got the
Okay.
Indian in you, so
Yeah. All right, guys. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it. Again, head over to the YouTube page. Check us out. Like, subscribe, comment. I'm going to throw the link to the house that CJ's working at on the bottom page of the website. You can find the website on the YouTube page for now. The web domain will be www.secondchancealliance, Second Chance Connection when it's up. So hopefully in a couple weeks, people can check it out. But CJ, thank you for coming on, man. I love you. You got an amazing personality, dude. From the first time I heard you speak at Todd's church, I was like, this dude's a character, man.
I am a character, actually have character today. Unlike before.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. I gotta remember that for when people say, yeah, that was good. But no, I've always enjoyed the small interactions with you, and I've enjoyed watching what you're doing. Congratulations on getting married back in June.
Thank you.
And we'll stay in touch, man. Any other time if you ever want to come back on and just do a topic or whatever, we'll get some guys on here and do a topic.
I will, man. In fact, I'll probably send some guys your way, man. I got some
That's
good
fine.
guys, got some good stories, man. And I love what you're doing, brother. I love that you want to give back. I'm so happy and grateful I got that opportunity to finally come and speak with you.
No, I'm really glad you came on. You have a really good story, and I'm sorry to hear about your brother. That's awful, but no, you had a good story, man. So keep doing what you're doing. I'll keep watching you. Again, if you or a couple of guys over there want to come on and just have some fun, let me know. I'm always down. So, all right, everybody, we'll holler at you. See ya. All right, we're done.